beautiful. Now, obviously, with the constraints of Melbourne MBN, we'll try to keep this brief and hopefully everyone's taking lunch on their working from home days. I'm joined today by Heath Williams, who is from Principal for Osteo, based in Melbourne CBD. And amongst the long line of credentials and certifications and roles that he plays within the osteo community, he's also the man charged with fixing my back currently as well. So probably, mate, that'll be a shiny trophy on the top of a very long list of qualifications and attributes that go to your name.
No worries, that's my number one goal.
That's right. That's right. It's a hell of a task. It's a hell of a task. All right. So Heath has been kind enough to join me today. Obviously, with what's been going on in the last week, we're seeing globally a lot of people being forced to work from home, stay at home. And for a lot of people, that will be the first time that they've had that opportunity to work flexibly. And I can tell you from experience, the way that you set up your environment to work is going to be, directly correlative to how productive you can be working at home. So Heath has been kind enough to join us today, and he's going to take us through, just basics of how to set yourself up to be in a position where you can both be productive and not be getting up from the chair every time aching with sore back, sore ribs, sore tight hips. Sound good?
Yep, sounds great. Thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me on. So, yeah, as you mentioned, my background is an osteopath. I'm generally treating people with aches and pains. And my goal here today is obviously everyone has had to obviously go home. And we're now spending most of our time working from home. And we might not have had the opportunity to set up our workstation to the optimal position that you might well have in the office. So because of that, most of us have probably just taken your laptop home and are having to have some sort of makeshift workstation set up. So if after today I can give you 2 or 3 things that are going to improve that for you, then that's great. Outside of that though, obviously we're going to be potentially house locked for some period of time. So getting you up and out and about moving, having natural light into the house, having fresh air, all these things are key in terms of maintaining a good sense of health and well-being and feeling mentally on top of things, okay? Because I know it's a tough time for everyone, and myself included. We all get a bit of cabin fever and we all need to release a bit of energy, and so getting up and moving around is one way to do that.
Is there a specific time you'd put on that? Like, should we be setting timers to get up and move around every hour and a half, something like that?
Oh, look, it all comes down to the context of your job. So if you're trying to do as normal work hours at home, and yet you've set up somewhere, I'd be sort of advocating every 30 minutes, sort of a 2-minute break, a little movement bite, and get up and move around, and then every hour, probably 5 minutes, and then after every sort of 2 or 3 hours, probably have a good 15, 20 minutes break or so. You don't have to do necessarily, unless your job demands that, to do all your work between 8 and 6. So can you chunk your work throughout the workday, especially given you might have kids at home like I do, you might have a partner who's there, you're needing to do other stuff also. So it's about getting your job done if you can, and sort of also being mindful of looking after yourself when you're at home, because we're in a compromised sort of environment. We probably don't have the optimal setup, and so therefore we want to reduce our exposure to some of these awkward postures, sitting too long, etc.
Yeah. So that's something I guess we would typically see a lot from your corporate or desk, population of clients is sore lower backs, tight hip flexors, all that sort of stuff. I guess that's probably something we would expect almost to be exacerbated by the amount of time that we are spending, working from home and potentially sitting even lower and working on the couch, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. If we're on the couch, on the bed, we're on a dining room chair, we're probably going to find ourselves having more neck-related aches and pains, more upper limb and shoulder, low back, tight through the hips, etc. Especially if we're working off just a mobile phone or tablet device or a laptop. So because of that, we're in these constrained environments with maybe not the best setup. It's all going to feed into tension and that sort of stuff. So I suppose where I'd start is if I've got a laptop and you've been sent home from work to do some work, firstly, I'll be thinking, what's the best environment that I can get seated in my workspace? That might well be your dining room table. And so if that's what you've got and you've got a dining room chair, then I'd be looking to get some cushions. You either sit on the cushions to prop yourself up higher, soften the seat pan, have some more cushions or a pillow along the backrest there. So at least then you're being a bit more supported in that position. And then if you're just working with your laptop alone, push the laptop slightly further away from you so that you've got good arm support on the desk. And then you're softening your neck angle when you're looking at the screen. Last thing we want to do is have it tucked right underneath us where we're looking straight down at the desk in a awkward sitting posture.
Yeah.
So that's probably the best thing with the laptop. I've had a few innovative clients over the last week or so. Others are standing up at the kitchen table bench and performing some work tasks there on their laptop just for short periods of time, just to break up from sitting at the desk or dining room table. Others have also gone to the ironing board and standing up there. Any opportunity you can to stand, do it. If most of your work tasks are sitting.
Yeah. So just generally speaking, you think stand-up desks in general are worth the chop?
Stand-up desks are fantastic in the sense of if you're going to use them in the way I suppose they're meant to be designed, to do some work sitting, some work standing. We don't want to stand all day and we don't want to sit all day, because the issue being we're not moving enough. So we want to be switching between the two to get the body moving like we're built to do. Okay. Yeah, that's probably my thoughts around sort of that stand-up desk sort of question there, Ben. If you have a spare keyboard and mouse at home, what I'd definitely be looking to do, say at your dining room table, is plug your keyboard and mouse into your laptop, get some books, some phone books, whatever you can, and prop your laptop up on it so that at least you can elevate that screen to more near eye line height, and you can separate yourself from the laptop keyboard and sort of set yourself up in a better position there.
Okay, perfect. So height of the screen is kind of what you're going for there, right?
Yeah, I'm looking for that screen height where your eye line sort of falls probably top third. And then if you pop your arm out in front, it's probably about arm's length away from you, so that you're not too close or too far away from it, so we don't get any eye strain.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's probably your optimal setup when we're thinking about how to make the most of just what we have in our house. The other key things are, if your job requires you to be speaking on the phone, reading hard copy paper documents, stand up when you're on the phone, stand up when you're reading hard copy documents. So that way, that gives you that little movement break that perhaps gets you away from sitting if you can't perform any computer-based work standing.
Yeah. I know that, definitely standing meetings and walking meetings are definitely something that's been almost somewhat buzzwords, right? You look at companies like Google and Apple, and they try to innovate by making people take meetings and being more active. So I guess if you're going to be working from home and on the phone, you may as well be walking around the block, or at least walking around the house as you're doing it.
Totally, yeah. Any type of movement's good. I'd be definitely encouraging getting up and walking around whilst doing those things, and get outside. If you can do some work outside at your house and it's safe and comfortable, get outside for a bit too, so you've got some natural light and all that sort of stuff happening too, and just some natural air and getting some good sort of UV light while we've got some sun out and that sort of thing. Yeah.
And I guess that's kind of the big fear at the moment, is that probably the natural sunlight's not going to be around for all that much longer, right?
Correct.
At the moment, it's been the kind of horror film storyline, but it's got the big, rom-com kind of backdrop with the 28 degrees days here in Melbourne and stuff like that. So, I think definitely taking advantage of the sunlight while you can. Mate, indoor plants, any thoughts on that? Kat is obsessed with putting greenery and that sort of stuff kind of on the desks and then watering them. And I know for me personally, I feel like they get in the way, but does that kind of stuff, do you feel like make a bit of a difference to the environment in a positive way?
I think it can make a good, it can be positive in a mental health and well-being way for sure. Like obviously greenery and earthy sort of environmental stuff can be quite calming and relaxing. You can also get, I suppose, anything that helps sort of just sort of soften that workspace and take it away from being sort of like your typical either working environment type of scenario or perhaps the home environment, just to soften it and just to calm you might be useful. I'm also a big fan of that greenery and that sort of stuff. So I support Kate and what she wants to do there. Definitely, I'm a big fan of it. Good. So what I'd probably if I'm not working in my home office downstairs, I'm outside on my outdoor sitting area performing my work tasks from there. So literally, the goal is you might spend a little bit of time in one area, move to somewhere else. You don't have to be stuck in one environment. And for me, I'm not so negative on sitting at the couch or sitting in your bed and doing a little bit of stuff. Just keep it to short periods of time and just understand that obviously some of those environments might contribute to awkward postures, and being there for too long might be the problem. 5-10 minutes here and there is not a big issue.
Yeah. Is it at that point where you're starting to feel a little bit stiff, a little bit locked up? Is that tends to be like, okay, it's time to get up and move around? Or are we trying to get up and move around before we get to that point of feeling a little bit stiff and a little bit tight?
Yeah, I suppose it's a bit like when you're thirsty. Like ideally, we probably should be drinking before we feel thirsty. Same thing with, say, movement breaks. We want to sort of get up and move around before we get stiff and tight. The thing is, though, we need to anchor it to things, and so in order to sort of create that change. So for some people, they put a little dot up on their screen, and every time they look at their dot, that's the trigger to move. Or they might put a post-it note up, or have some reminder on their calendar if they need that reminder. For those that are more maybe body aware in terms of their body, then I suppose you might listen to your body, and that might be a bit of a sign to get up and move postures and change postures. If you're fidgety like me, then you're never not moving, so that's also a positive thing. So it sort of comes down to you and your makeup and what drives you really, and what you need to remind you or change behavior.
Yeah, I think that having a trigger to remember to move is super useful, because I know once I get into something, like I tend to not look up from what I'm doing until I finish that task, or I get distracted into 5 or 6 other tasks, and then you look up and you're kind of 2 or 3 hours down the line, and then you stand up and it's like, oh, my back, which, like, especially for kind of like what we're working through, is like, oh, is that from like the banded deadlift work, or is that just because I've been slouching over my laptop for the last like 2.5 hours trying to put stuff together?
Yeah. So for you, I'd be like, you've got to put reminders up, be it through your iPhone app or Android phone or on your laptop, because if you get in the zone, which is how most people operate, then they're going to get consumed by that, and they need something to externally change their behavior.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Easy, mate. I know you're super busy, so I don't want to take up a heap of your time. I know you've got some sick kids running around at home too. But just to recap, you know, if we can just summarize for us in just a couple of words, those kind of top 3, it would be to, if you've got the extra toys and the detachable keyboard and mouse and stuff, make the most of it. Yeah. Propping up your screen a little bit higher so that you're not so dense over the neck, and kind of getting up, moving around, doing some work at different parts so you can stand, move around, stretch out. That'd be the top 3.
You've got them all. If you can do those 3 things, your back's going to get better soon.
All right. Perfect. Thank you, mate. And seeing how we go, if we're still in this kind of cabin fever type style set up in the next 2 or 3 weeks, maybe we'll touch base again and we can take it a little bit deeper. All right.
Yep. Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, Ben.
Easy. Thanks, Heath, mate. Appreciate it.
Cool.